Hi, OzMOSaics sells and stocks lightweight board, which we call Mos board, just for an easy way to say it, and we have it in 6mm width, 1 centimetre and 2 centimetre. And I love them all. The 3 widths I use extensively, and I've cut out a little basket shape here in the 6mm where I just wanted it to have a little bit of a profile up from the substrate. But I've decided I want it in 2 centimetre width, 1 centimetre for an upcoming workshop because it looks good. So I just wanted to show you some of the tools I use to cut out the Mos board. I use this gadget, which is a serrated edge on one corner here, but this nice edge here is fairly sharp, and that seems to cut the Mos board quite well. A Stanley knife is a great idea, and I just use these cheapies. They come in from the dollar shops, and the very fine one or the thicker one are great. And I also use hacksaw blades, which I snap in half so that they're easier to handle. And we also have an electric jigsaw, which Dave often cuts, or I'll cut bigger pieces. But in the studio, sometimes I just want to get on with it, so I just use what I've got out of those tools there. So they all work. It depends on you. A jigsaw is a lot lighter in your hand. If you're doing a lot, you may be well worth investing in one from the hardware store. I also have a range of little bits of offcuts in wood, which have handy chocks to lift the board up if you're cutting away. This is just my work Mos mats, which you'll see further in the Mos information on those, but it catches things. And so what I want to do is show you how this piece of thicker 2 centimetre thick Mos board, if I just want to cut that out into some little shapes using this gadget on the non-serrated side, I just started off here, push down, and I find it quite good. The handle's good to grip, and that's not so bad, is it? And if I want to cut it in half again, we use these in our work, these little props. Ta-da! Show you using the Stanley knife. Always be careful, wear safety glasses. If you're worried you might cut yourself or slip, put on some gardening gloves. That's a good help. But always be careful. So adjust you probably know how to do this, but just push the Stanley knife out to the length you want the blade extended from the tool, and pull this little tiny piece here, this flappy bit back, and that locks the blade. It stops it moving. So get a length that works for you, and I find just sort of do cuts. Just slice it like that. Go around the other side and down. So that's good too. So that's the big Stanley knife. And here's a little skinny blade. They blunt fairly quickly, so you will have to sharpen them. And by that I mean use the snapper system to cut the blades back when they get blunt. And the hacksaw blade here, it's just got those tiny little serrations on the edge. There we go. And if you set it on a chock and have it extended out, you can go further through the... So they all work. And the scissors will also cut through the thinner ones. This is 1 centimetre, so if I want to cut a bit off that, you can often just hack it off like that. And let's see how it goes if you're going round a curve. It's not too bad as long as you can get into it. That's good, isn't it? Look at that. Let's cut around. Let's draw a line here. See what it does if you've got something hard to cut, or I mean a more difficult shape. Let's have a go at that. You probably have to cut across it, so you get stuck when you get to there. You can get into it a bit. So this is probably better for a gentle curve or a quick snip like we did before. But that's on the thicker one. If you're on the thinner board, like this one here, I'll just cut into this little basket. That's quite easy to cut on the 6mm. So if I go back to this little gadget, which I really like, you can buy these from us in the Mosaic Mall or at OzMOSaics Studio Shop. And here, I'll just get myself into position. And I find that if you cut, when you're cutting the lightweight board, cut it on an angle like this. So have your tool swinging back this way a little and sort of edge cut it back that way rather than straight down. And I find sometimes it's a great way. It'll cut nicely, see that? If you do gentle swipes and just move it around, this is quite good for going around curves, this little gadget. Just don't rush it. There's no need to always be in a big rush. Just turn it around to suit. And as I said, if you can angle the thing, the same as with the Stanley knives, angle them in, it seems to cut well. But obviously it's tough because it's cement coated, so you're going to have to do the work. So you may want to use a jigsaw. But I find that's quite good. There we go. And that's quite curvy. There we go. Snip it off. So there's the bits there. And then, if you don't like to do that, you can get a brush. I'll just sweep away a bit of this. We sweep all of this into a bucket and we reuse all of this. So now, if I have it sitting flat, you may find that better. And if you watch this, you just make a start, make the gap, and see I'm slicing sort of inwards, sort of on a curve, and I'm not going all the way through. And some people find that easier for a start. Cut it down and then just snip it back like that to see the join, then stand it up or whatever angle you can do and just go down the back of it, and that sort of does the final slice. That gives you a fairly neat look. But it doesn't really matter if it's a bit shaggy or not, because it's going to be coated, the edges either in whatever you want. Mosaic, mesh, thin set, silicone. We have other decorative things I'm not going to go on about here, but you can just get your scissors and trim off. Little nail scissors be good, but just trim them off because it's all going to smooth in eventually. So I don't get too fussed about that. So find a tool that works for you, but this is pretty good. I like this little gadget because it's easy to, I can get a bit of pressure into it. There we are. And you'll see what we do with those in our workshops. Okay, so we don't waste anything. I'm going to put those over in my box. And I'm about to cut out some baskets. So I'll just pause for a minute. I've got a piece of the 1 centimetre thickness Moz board, and here's a bit of a rough template I have, and I'm going to cut around that. Usually I'd use a pencil because it's a thinner line, but you won't see it in the video, so I'll use a felt pen, but I'll cut on the line or inside. I don't want it to be much bigger. Okay, I could write top on there if I want to, but you can have this reversible depending on how we use it. Now it's damp there because I was trying something before, and I'll try it again. It's just I'm always doing kooky things, but if I wet the board, you can see why I do pre-seal with Hydro Band when I use this, because it does absorb water, and it's just a great idea to do that. But at the moment we're just cutting it out. I'll probably wash my pattern off now. Oh no, it's there. So I'll just let that absorb for a minute. Because I found before, I don't know if it's my imagination or not, but it cut, you still see the lines there, it cut better with the, when it was wet, but I don't know whether I just imagined it. So you can use a bit of lightweight board to prop it up, or your chocks, whatever, but I found that sometimes if it's propped up here, it'll go through more deeply with your cutter. So we'll try this little gadget. So what I do, I push down first. I push down to make a hole right through. So that's now showing through the back. And I've got a bit of a grip on the board here, and I'm just going to angle it in slightly, take tiny little bites and work my way through. You can go slowly or you can go as fast as you like, but the damp, it seems to cut well damp, and I'll have to do a few or get a few people to do it to see if that's crazy or not. But that's going well. So let's dampen the back too. In for a penny, in for a pound. Oops. You could use a mister bottle. Mine's outside. I can't be bothered going and getting it, but you should always have a water mister bottle handy, because we use it for many things. There we go. So that's wetted on the back. This should be interesting. Okay. So just angle it around. Just trying to zoom in a little for you. Probably not worth zooming, but we'll give it a go. All right, so I've got my chock there, or my wooden chocks. You'll probably find ways that's easier. Everyone has their own angle, how you hold your teeth, you know, the old expression. So just cutting through, taking your time, because it's pretty tough. As I said, you could use a jigsaw and it'd be done in fast time, but then I've got to go and set up a power tool. So long, gentle cuts, see? So slice down and up, and just sort of take and angle it slightly inwards if you can, and just take your time. And if you get tired, just adjust that. If you get tired, just take a break. Take it, you know, shake it out. Here we go, but that's going quite well. But you could use a standing knife or any of those gadgets I showed you. So there, we've gone down one side. And now we'll come up this side. So get my prop where it feels comfortable. Get a grip on the board. Get going. Little skinny bit off the edge of the basket, and then I need to go this way. Actually, I might come back here. I might make that a bit higher there. There we go, and then here we are. And I could have cut this off. It's probably easier to cut this off the big board, so I'm not trying to balance this whole thing. Little snippet there. Okay, that's easier. It's just I'm trying to conserve the board. I've got to cut a lot of these. Here we go. What I've noticed, this hasn't snapped in half, whereas often the standing knives will suddenly snap on you because you put too much pressure. But again, I've used both, so I'm not saying one's better than the other. Just you have to work that out for yourself. Okay, so now you just snap that a bit, find out if there's anywhere you haven't gone all the way through. Just up here. Okay, that's good. So we're getting there. So now I've just got to cut the inside line there. So just push the tool down to get in there and start. If you found it really hard, you can actually cut this in half, because you can always, this has been glued to the base. It doesn't matter how many bits it's in. This could be made up of scraps of lightweight board, because we're going to mosaic on it and thin set on it and decorate it. It's going to look good. So I'm going to go on a search for even better tools to do this, but this is my latest little gadget. Pretty good. And it seems to stay sharp enough, because obviously the cement on the lightweight board, on the Mos board, can blunt anything. So if you're cutting this out with a jigsaw, make sure that you get a diamond jigsaw blade. Otherwise it'll be dull in no time at all. You'll be not happy. So make sure at the hardware store you get the right blade. If you're not sure, contact Dave. He'll send you a copy, or I'll put it online in the school. This is just a little bit of a quickie video while I'm getting these ready. So if you haven't gone all the way through, because when you're demoing, you're trying to concentrate on too much, just go around the back. So I think if you use a jigsaw, you'll have perfect edges. You won't have any fluff, and even a standing knife, but I don't care. As I said, it's going to be covered up. Who cares? Okay, so there's a middle bit done. Didn't take long. And as I said, you can have a little breather in between if you get tired. So there's what I want. It might look a funny shaped basket, but it's going to go, you won't see any of it much. It's going to have flowers and things everywhere, but it'll lift the profile up because then we'll be putting on top of it some pretty gorgeous things. More on that later. And we'll be building on this on the base and using all sorts of things to get to where we want to be. But all I want to mainly show you is that Stanley knife, hacksaw blade, small Stanley knife, scissors for some of it, and this little gadget available at the Mosaic Mall all help. And then the edging you'll see elsewhere in the mall. I can just trim off this and OzMOSaics. It's some scissors, or you can just smidgen that into the whatever you cover the edges of the board, because the board, once it's cut, it's exposed. It's very sturdy, but if that was outside and wider and you just put thin set on, if someone really pushed their hand in, if it wasn't thick enough, you could have a ding. A lot of people line it with the fiberglass mesh. It depends where it's going. If this is an outside edge, say that was the whole substrate, well then I definitely treat it. But this is being glued into a substrate and we'll have thin set and flowers built all over it. So we'll just be edging this, and we can use silicone or we can use thin set, and we'll be showing both. They both work, and that it's good enough for what we're doing. So this is going to be gorgeous. I'll hope to show you more later, but that's just a little moment, mosaic moment from the Mosaic Mall. And as I showed earlier, we do very special things with this. And a little tip, if you want to curl your mosaic board, this is the piece from in the middle. You would definitely, looks like a rabbit here, doesn't it? You could use that, but you can make, with the tiny Stanley knife, cut some lines in, but don't go right through. It's very important. So you can set your notch on this so it won't go right through. And then you can gently snap it back. And we'll show you further on how you can set that to curve into all sorts of undulating shapes and projects. Okay, I've got a lot coming up. I've got to run, but I hope you found that interesting. And have a good day, and lots of mosaic hugs from Sandy at OzMOSaics.